I'm a whirlwind of emotions. How about you?
I, you ever see an anime so beautiful you started crying?
Yeah, my eyes hurt. I'm not in the best shape. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Skeleton Crew podcast. We decided to watch all 5 episodes remaining of Heike Story, and I'm not in a good place. But I can record because I'm professional.
How are you feeling, Stross? Let's get some
Let,
let's get
us
some news from the front here.
um my crops are salted, my water supply is poisoned. My eyes hurt. Uh I'm in great and terrible sadness.
I see. I think it's going to be interesting because like this is my first time going through Heike Story.
Yeah.
Uh, Finally finished watching it, and I'm sad. Don't get me wrong. I'm very sad, but um, we'll talk about it. Hi everybody. That's Stross. This is Sardo. This is Skeleton Crew podcast. How y'all doing this evening? Um, this is a lot to unpack.
Well, for starters, I want to say, as the Stross here with my skeletal brother, we watched 5 episodes, which is a lot. That is about half the series in one night. This was, by the way, this was Sardo's idea, not mine.
It was my idea. I'm proud of us. I think we did good. Thank you for
Honestly,
doing this, Stross.
yeah, no, honestly, it started out fine. The first 2 episodes we watched tonight were not bad. None of it was bad, but it was like the first 2 episodes were set up for what was going to
Yeah.
be the hard part. And oh, was it hard? So I think we should start off by saying the first 2 episodes were about really the continued escalating situation that we talked about last time we talked about Heike Story.
Yes. It
And
was the buildup of the story and the beginning of the end for uh the Tyra, the Heike, the Heike.
mm-hmm.
And oh boy, um
Like so
Beetle got a
much.
cat.
Yeah, Biwa got a cat the last episode. That was great. This is the nicest thing that happened in pretty much to all but like one other person for the rest of this story. But episode 7 is important because it's the basically near final nail in the coffin when
Mm-hmm.
Kiyomori died.
Kiyomori fucking kicked the bucket. He got a really bad fever and he just died.
I mean, he was an old ass man, but
But he was an evil old man, and you
yeah,
don't know that mostly those live forever.
yeah. Well, the thing about Kiyomori that's important to sort of the state of the world, so to speak, is that he's the only thing keeping the Heike together at this point because he's
Mm-hmm.
competent. He's the competent one
Yes.
left in the room because his last living oldest son is lame and we hate him.
Yes.
And his
He's
second
he's a dork.
his second son, eldest son that's left is either the large jock boy or the other one
Yep.
who is looks like Shigemori but not as good.
He's like great value Shigemori. He's clearly traumatized. Also, there's a lot of there's a lot of undiagnosed PTSD going around here. And I mean, obviously, that they didn't have a diagnosis for it because it didn't exist yet. But
It is the 12th century. I don't think they understand what mental health is yet.
all of these men are very traumatized.
Yeah. The first thing that really happens in the 7th episode is Shingehara accidentally sets fire to another temple.
Yeah, good job, Shigehira. He didn't mean to be fair. It was the wind,
Yeah,
and it wasn't even his choice.
yeah. These monks decided to be once again get in their hair. He actually sets fire to another temple and just he does not take it well.
He reacts very poorly, and I'll say, I think this show, one of the things it does well among the list of them, it's a very good portrayal of trauma. I think it's interesting and it's effective.
Well, it's also because like we see multiple characters get trauma and
Mhm.
traumatized throughout this series, and they all take it very differently. Like
Yeah,
Shigemori just straight up dies. But
but it's very interesting. So that happens with Shigehira. He sets another temple on
actually
fire,
sets more
and that
than
just
one on fire
he sets several on fire, and
by
it's not a
accident.
good. He
Which
doesn't mean to.
it was an accident. The wind caused a fire to go out of control because all these
And it
buildings are
wasn't
wood.
his fault.
It wasn't his fault, but boy, does he not take it well.
No. And so that happens. Obviously, that does not win any stands for the Heike. People are very mad about that.
As they want to do, the other big thing in this episode, outside of Kiyomori fucking dying, is Tokiko finally stands up to her father, and we're all very proud of her.
She Tokuko's character development is just mwah, chef's kiss.
You
It's
love this. This is like finally the samurai woman of my dreams.
I Tokuko is a queen and we love her. Yeah, so she puts her foot down. She because she gets told that, you're going to go into another marriage to make this alliance for our family. And her I believe her father tells her this before he dies. And it'd be really hard for him to tell her that after he died. But so and she tells him, "No,
No,
no,
if
I'm
you
not
do
gonna
it,
do
I
that."
will become a nun. And everyone's like, oh, okay.
She even whips out a knife and she's like threatening to cut her hair, and everybody's like, "Don't do that."
No, 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 no. And as soon after that, Kiyomori dies from a very intense fever.
He
We see
dies
some
from being old
demons.
disease.
Yeah, for being too old. And some demons showed up. That was fun.
Yes, in his wife's nightmares, she sees him basically being carted off to hell.
Very nice, and they got him a very nice cart too.
Oh yeah, it's a sweet card.
And the other really big thing, and the final and probably most important thing of this episode, is Biwa is sent away by Sukamori,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the second eldest of Shigemori's kids.
Yes.
And like, it is very much presented as he is sending her away for her own good.
Mm-hmm.
Because they, as we've talked about, they have a very sibling relationship.
Yeah.
And it's like he's like, I don't want to drag you farther into this that you can live. And even she
Right.
knows that because their youngest brother Kiyotsune is like, brother, but he's like, no, I know why he's doing this. I get it.
But of course he still has to make it a little dicey and insult her, of course, and say that, I always thought your eye was creepy anyway. And it's like, dude, okay, I get it, but
You're putting on the airs, and we know it's out of love.
yes. And so that's sad. So Biwa separates from them and she goes on her way.
And this leads into episode 8,
Yes.
where we learn Biwa's going all across the area. She goes visits the dancers from like episode 2.
Yeah, we get a call back to them and we get to meet them a little better.
Well, sort of. Half of them are dead.
Yeah, some of them.
Some of the, But we are told an interesting little factoid is that Biwa has learned that there was another former dancer that looked a bit like her and is potentially her mumsy.
The same eyes.
Yeah, the same eyes. They're weird eyes. You got weird eyes, kid.
So Biwa and her girl gang go on kind of an adventure
Well,
to find her
we should
mother.
probably also discuss it because at the end of that episode, she runs into a girl gang. We'll talk about them because what else happened in this episode?
Yes, yes.
The big part of this episode was someone very different showed up.
Mm-hmm.
We met the wildest man. You want to talk about Yoshinaka?
Yoshinaka is what they know in the common parlance as a scrungly.
Very scruggly.
He is he's referred to as kind of like monkey-like at one point because he's a wild man. He lives in the forest. We're introduced to him. He's like way up in the trees in a hammock just chilling out. He's got like hair down past his butt. And he like climbs the trees like he was born in them, and he's a wild man.
His clothes have patches in them, and he is like, oh, I'm gonna fight the Heike. I'm a Genji too.
Yeah.
And he does. And the funny part about this is, for those who know who any of these people are, yes, this is when Tomoe goes and herself shows up for her brief appearance in this story.
We get a solid 3 seconds of Tomoe Gozen.
The problem is this series rarely shows any actual fighting. So the thing she's most famous for doesn't really show up.
It's not a fighting heavy story. That's just not what we're here for.
Yeah, it is a drama. That's what it is. So we don't really get to see everyone in action. Like, the action is very sparse.
But she is there.
She is there, and she has the smuggest look on her face the entire time, and it's great.
I like her.
Yeah, I like her too. And basically, poor Komamori once again Korimori has to go into another fight and loses, and it's really
Korimori doesn't like fighting. We've discussed this in previous episodes. He doesn't enjoy fighting very much.
But the big key here is, after Yoritomo lost a battle, which is what prompted this battle, Korimori loses like 70,000 men. They fall off a side of a cliff.
Fall into a ravine. And this bit, like, there's not, like, Heike Story is not very big on the blood and guts, but there's a few, like, brief glimpses here of, like, the dudes falling into the chasm, and it's gnarly. Like, especially, like, compared to the like, because they don't show much in the show, and the bit you see, it's like, oh!
Yeah, it's not a pleasant death to fall to your doom.
Oh, it's nasty.
And it gets worse because this absolutely fucks up Korimori for the rest of the series. Like, he's not okay.
He's a troubled young man.
Yeah, and this prompts Munamori and the rest of the Heike to be like, peace out! We're not gonna die here. So they fleed west towards Kyushu.
And it does a good job, I think, of showing kind of it's not just, oh, we're traveling, we're moving. This is really, like, disheartening, and it's degrading to have to do this. We have to stay in, like, this busted up, creepy old castle, and
yeah, they go back to Fukuhara, which was created by, of course, Kiyomori, but since his death, like, no one had been there for like 3 years, so it's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, they're all like, God, this sucks. This sucks.
And it's such a downgrade.
Yeah. And it's just like, you could feel like, this wasn't like when they moved the capital last time, where it's like everyone had to move. It's like, no, we're running away. We're
Yeah,
trying
and
not to die.
and everybody is miserable.
Just no one's having a good time. The only person who seems to be having an okay time is the Emperor himself, because he's like 5,
Yeah.
so he doesn't get it.
Little baby emperor doesn't really understand what's going on because he's a baby.
He is a small child, and his mother is precious and making sure he doesn't suffer.
Kokoko gets like Mom of the Year award. Seriously, yeah.
Yeah, she's best mom here. But that's the main thing that happened in episode 9. In episode 8, episode 9 through 10 is 9 through 11. I'm sorry, audience, listeners. The next 3 episodes is where things start to hurt.
It was a pretty good ride. Mostly, episode 9 puts like the snare around your ankles and starts like dragging you down the road at 80 miles an hour.
Well, the first we'll start with the happier parts. At the end of the last of episode 8, Biwa runs into a girl gang led by a girl named Shizuka. Now, if you know who that is, like I do, I will talk about her more later. But they're a group of young dancers. They're very kind of almost not like silly.
They're definitely like the lighthearted, like quasi comic relief of the series.
For these 3 episodes, anyways.
And I'd say they're like the teeny tiny little bit of fan service that we get in Heike Story too.
And the fan service is, hey, look, they're dancing, they're having a good time. There's
also the scene where they're in the lake and they got like their pants off.
I mean, for as much as that is actually shown, which is about, I think, 3 seconds in total.
I'd say, well, comparatively.
True. But yeah, so they end up going to a new spot to see Biwa's mom. And it's very like, oh. She's blind, and it's kind of a strained meaning, I would say.
Well, yeah, because the mom admits straight up, yes, I abandoned you and your dad.
But
and it's
what we learn is that she still cares. And
yes,
she is
course.
very regretful. And Biwa starts realizing by the end of this meeting that, like, oh, you've been praying for me this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been watching me through your magic eye, like I watch people. And she's like, well, okay, maybe I'm not much better than you.
It's a well-written reunion. Biwa's obviously like hurt and angry, and at first when the mom says like I was praying for you the whole time, Biwa's like, you were praying for me?
And then she realizes by the end, is like, no, you were praying for me and my late father. You were like actually meaning it. Like, this is sincere.
Yeah.
And it's sweet. Meanwhile, Yoshinaka got fucking murked in like a second.
Got an arrow through his neck.
Yeah, so this is like the first real introduction to a character I've been waiting for, and that is Minamoto no Yoshitsune, the youngest brother of Yoritomo, and a guy who is introduced with a pause. Like, we don't even see Noriyori. He's here. We never see him, but like Yoshitsune, it's like, send in the death machine.
It's like, this dude is fucking scary, and it's such an effective little bit of scene setting, character establishing. It's good.
For a character we should mention isn't really in this anime a whole lot. He doesn't really show up until now.
Oh, he's like a very late comer, but it works so well in just like that very short moment. Like, oh no.
Well, not only that, what makes this all super funny is he is like 16 and like totally not what you think. Like, Yoshinaka is this wild man. He's huge. He's like, ha 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 the entire time. And Yoshitsune is like, hello, how are you? And then you like look into his eyes, you're like, oh, you're the scary one with the
Uh,
with the makeup on.
he's very pretty.
He's a very pretty young man, which is on purpose
Oh,
because
yes.
it totally contrasts. Because this is the moment when you realize if this guy's here, the Heike are fucked.
Oh, yeah. No, they're boned.
And we see this towards the end of the episode where he attacks them and it's just he routes them. He goes on a trail that used by deer. Deer men.
And there's a little bit that I think's badass where they're like, listen, dude, only deer can travel through that path in the woods. And he's like, well, if a deer can do it, a horse can do it too. And he says it in such a way that it's like, yeah, I believe you.
And his very famous retainer Ben K is like, ha ha ha, you're right, ha ha. He now that's not the only thing that happens this episode. We lose a couple more characters, and that's when it started to hurt because Kiyotsune kills himself.
I the face I made because they're out on the boat. They're trying to like get to their destination, but they're surrounded by the Genji.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can't make land. And Kiyotsune brings out his flute and there's a moment where it's like almost a little bit hopeful because he starts playing and it's like, oh, that's he hasn't wanted to play or even hear flute music, this is a good sign. And then he stops. And then you notice he takes off his sandals and he gets up on the edge of the boat. And this is where my jaw was open. Holy shit. Kiyotsune fucking dies.
It not only that, but it's like you see earlier on that there are rocks in his boat. Like he has loaded his clothing with rocks. Like he just jumps in.
Yeah.
And there he goes. And it's just Biwa sees this obviously because she's got the magic eye.
Yes.
And she's not happy about this. This is like the halfway point of the episode, by the way. We're skipping around.
Mm-hmm. And again, props to Biwa's voice actress
Once
for
again.
Yes. The she just gives this absolutely gut-wrenching scream when she knows what's about to happen. And
she's nowhere near in a place where she could stop this because she's with the girl gang just like hanging out by the sea.
It's such an interesting contrast because like where she is at, it's a beautiful sunny day. Over there, it's the middle of the night. And it's oh.
Yeah. And somehow this is not the most depressing death in this episode.
Oh, but wait, there's more.
Because at the end, after being pursued by Yoshitsune's forces, the Heike Atsumori comes back, grabs his flute, and right as he's about to leave, he is challenged by a mysterious warrior who's like, come on, how about you? And he's like, all right, how about ye? And then, I mean, he puts up a good fight at least.
And it's a sick fight. Like they're standing like kind of like ankle deep in the ocean, and they're like, the fight choreography is good. It's a beautiful fight.
It's well shot.
Then,
but the problem is when Atsumori disarms him, he forgets the most important thing of battle of man large, be cautious.
Yes.
Always watch out for grappling.
Dude, you're like 16.
You're like 16, you're 5'3", you look like a girl, and this guy is like 5'10", and probably has like 100 pounds on you. It does not go well for Atsumori, who almost actually makes it out because this is, once again, Biwa's narrating this. And it's like, the moment he sees his face, once the helmet comes off, he's like, oh, wow, I'm about to kill, like, a kid.
Yeah, this is a child.
And, okay, so, fun fact, we actually know who this man is. He's never, like, mentioned by name, but he is actually a person of note. He is Okay, Kumagai no Jiro Naozane.
Okay.
That's his full name, or just Kumagai Naozane. That's
Uh-huh.
Naozane.
The name is familiar, yeah.
Well, he should be because he's the star of a different play.
Yes.
He said ultimately kills him, and Biwa's sad about this one, and not in the same way, but like I think she's sad in the same way a lot of us are sad, which is like Atsumori is like he shouldn't be here.
He was so out of his depth, and he was a sweet kid.
He was a soft boy of soft boys who just wanted to play his flute.
And Soft Boy wasn't okay.
And like the whole sequence of this is incredibly well done. We should mention,
Mm-hmm.
like directorially, it's like every shot is great, every moment is like heart pounding, and it's just that's where the episode ends with his death. And now Zane will be back later on,
Yes.
but we'll talk more about him in a bit. But we have to get on to the second to last episode where things get worse. Fun fact: two main character deaths is not worse. By the way, did you notice something about the intro? Like by this point, all of the first like other than Biwa, of the first like four characters seen in the intro, only one of them is still alive by this point.
Yeah. I
It's
was thinking about that while I was watching.
yeah, you're like, oh right, Tokuko's the only like Shigemori, he's dead. Kiyotsune, he's dead. Atsumori, he's dead. Tokuko, you're the only one who's still with us, girl. Thank God.
Good job, Tokuko.
Yeah. So next up is episode 10. We're just going through all of this because we have a lot to like talk about in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want you all to understand, we are about to be very busy. So we have to speed through some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it starts with the Heike still on the run, kind of going from place to place. Everyone's having a bad time.
And everybody kind of knows that like this is the end.
Yeah, and what we realize is because there's scenes with Yoritomo and his wife, who is I don't think is named in show, but I do know what her name is.
Her
Uh,
name.
she is Hojo no Masako, or just Lady Masako.
Well, Lady Masako is a bad bitch and I love her.
Yeah. Do you want to know a bit of a fun fact here?
Huh.
She's actually related to the Taira.
Really?
The Hojo are a cadet branch of the Taira clan.
Huh.
Not the Go Hojo. Not. Stop thinking of a different dad. Not-
Different one. Different one.
We'll talk about him another night.
Yeah.
Him and his solid snake looking ass. But yeah, so that's just a fun fact. And she is like, no, kill them.
Yeah.
Every time Yoritomo is like, I don't know, maybe I should be nice. She's like, no.
And I do love kind of their dynamic because Yoritomo is a bit of like he's a bit of a mealy-mouthed, indecisive little wuss.
He's
And
always
she's like, no, you're gonna do this.
he's always like, well, I don't know.
Hmm.
He still has probably the funniest moment in the entire series when they fled in the last 3 episodes we watched. He's like, huh. Well, that was weird. But here also in turn, as they flee, we learn that the Genji are like, they're not going to just get the sacred treasures back. They're not going to get all this stuff. They're not here to defeat the Heike. They're here to kill.
They're out for blood. They're here to wipe the Heike out.
Yeah, and this is demonstrated. It's like when they went to their last staying place, they cut all this stuff down. They do all this stuff that's just like, whew.
But the Heike are also kind of escalating things because every time they leave a place, they burn it down right before they leave.
Usually
So the Genji
and so yeah, the Genji can't really get anything. Not that it stops them at all.
Right.
And it's just, SpaghettiOs.
And also, fucking Munemori is not helping anything at all.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy.
Oh, we should also
Fuck him.
mention at this point, Hira, the one who has burned down way too many temples by accident, all by accident, by the way, has turned himself in, and he's basically almost like kind of lost it.
He's unraveling very rapidly.
He's like, this is divine punishment. I've deserved this, and everyone's just, and even like Go Shirakawa's like, oh god, man, what's happened to you?
Oh.
So,
Also, I love Go Shirakawa through all of this. Like every scene he's in, he's so kind of goofy.
well, it's just like he's like always cackling, like ha 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 ha, I'm doing it. He's fun. He's a fun character, but like as this goes through, Korimori bolts.
Mm-hmm.
And then very soon after runs into Biwa, who she realizes like, oh, you're gonna do that, aren't you? And yeah, he also kills himself.
Yep. He becomes a monk first though, because he wants to atone for, all the sins he believes he's perpetrated, and mostly for his cowardice.
And then he kills himself like day one.
Yeah, and it's honestly kind of a beautiful scene, even though it's really sad because like he's up on the boat with the rest of the monks and he just steps into the water and it's I don't know, it's very nicely directed.
It's weirdly serene.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just like, oh, this is it. And like there's the one young monk who's trying to like realizes what's happening and doesn't stop him, but probably because he's horribly shocked.
Well, yeah.
Like no one else is doing anything.
It's like, nope, just let him do it.
And it's sad because it's kind of exactly what was probably going to happen to this poor boy.
And you couldn't really see it going many other ways because he was deeply traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
He just wanted to dance.
And then Tsukamori and Biwa reunite in what is actually a very heartfelt scene.
It is.
Because it's like basically the last two siblings together, if you will.
And it's so sad because like he's trying to be kind of cold with her and it's he can't do it.
He's trying to make her not be there because he doesn't want her in this mess. And it's like, you're trying, man. You really do care. Always have, always will.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work. She does deliver him a letter from his lady love, and it just... What Biwa's now here is like, I'm here to witness the end.
Yeah.
And
she's come to terms with things.
Yeah, and we get what is the basically final setup, which is on the water we have 4,000 boats in total, 1,000 for the Heike, 3,000 for the Genji, led by Yoshitsune, and what is going to be the climactic final battle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the setup for the end of the episode. And we go straight into the next episode, which is mostly this battle, actually. This is the only time we really see a prolonged fight sequence between armies.
Yeah.
And it's, like, chaotic, it's wild, and it looks like it's going the Heike's way, because they are sailors by trade.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, maybe they got this. And then you start realizing, uh-oh. The wind's shifting.
They don't got this.
They don't got this. And we're not going to really cover the battle because it's mostly just a lot of shouting. It's a lot of arrows. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
And interesting things happen, but then it's just like the real drama part is happening on the boat that's not even in battle. It's the one with the Emperor on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, do you want to talk about this part, or should I?
Oh, go right ahead.
Well, throughout the battle and most of this episode, Biwa is talking with Tokiko, her mother, and, like, her lady attendants.
Mm-hmm.
And we forgot to mention this, but there's already a new emperor as crowned by Go Shirakawa. It's Go Toba.
They're both babies, 2 baby emperors.
We got 2 baby emperors. One's baby in the fact that they're both like 5 or
Yeah.
6. They are small beings. And it should be noted that throughout all these episodes, like Antaku the Emperor, the Heike Emperor, we should mention,
Yeah.
just to make sure everyone's clear, is adorable. Like, he plays with Biwa's cat, who is not at this battle. He's not at this battle. Because the cat was like, he's taken in by fishermen because, like, Biwa's like, I don't want my cat to die here.
The cat is safe.
The cat is safe. No, don't worry. No cat's in peril. Amazingly, we're not like this for any of the horses.
And also, I think the way that Little Baby Emperor is written is interesting, because there is a point where he's on the boat that's supposed to be safe with his mother, and he's like, I want to go out and I want to see the battle.
And B was like, no. No, you
like,
don't.
Okay, you can go out and see it if you promise you won't freak out when you're hit by an arrow.
And that shuts that conversation down. We did miss one scene that I do want to talk about. And because Shizuka does dance in front of Yoshitsune, and they are like, oh.
They have a moment.
I will talk more about that in a bit. But
yes.
Or I can say it now. It's not a moment. It's a whole ass fling.
Right.
Shizuka is the famous lover of Yoshitsune. Like, this is not.
Ooh.
They are gonna just so you know, after they cut to a different scene, those two definitely made out at some point.
Yes.
Because
I kind of figured.
Well, what makes this great, because when this attack is about to happen, and in the lead up to the battle, like, Shizuka's like shown like looking out the window, and they're like, oh, she's just worried about Lord Yoshitsune. He'll be fine. And this contrasts the look of Yoshitsune. He's like, I'm about to kill a bunch of people. It's just like, it's almost kind of funny, but it's also just such a great stark contrast of like, oh yeah, there's like a life outside of this battle still.
Yeah.
But yeah, as the battle goes on, and the tides start to turn, Monomori's the first one to head to the safe boat because he's incompetent and lame.
I'm gonna go join my mom. It's like, yeah, I bet you are.
Yeah. Really, you're out of the way, so it's fine.
Yeah. He wasn't that much of a help to begin with.
Yeah. And the real bad part is when Tomomori shows up, which is the big jockey son of Kiyomori, and it's like, oh no. Things
get bad so quickly once he shows up.
Well, because...
And it's not his fault.
Well, yeah, because they're soon betrayed by one set of people who are like, the Emperor's boat isn't on one of these big junkers.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are Chinese junks involved. He's on one of these smaller boats. And then instead of attacking these big fortified ships, the Genji are like, take out all the little ones. And everyone's like, uh-oh. They figured out, they've learned our plan.
Yep.
They know our moves.
And shit goes downhill so very quickly after that.
Yeah, and it's just like, this part was rough to sit through. And not in the sense of like, oh, this is not well done, because this is maybe the best episode of the entire series.
It's excruciatingly well done.
And it's incredibly painful to watch, because it's like, you start realizing that all these these court women who are just like still in their fancy robes and their long hair. But the first thing we see is Kiyomori's wife. What is her name? I'm looking it up. Oh no. Oh yeah, Tokiko. Like her hair's cut.
Yeah.
Which should be the first sign that something is up.
Yeah, shit is already gone way to fucktown by that point.
And we need to mention still that, like, while this battle's happening, their boat, like, there's even a scene of just Biwa braiding Tokuko's hair.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, everything's gonna be fine. And this is the moment when you're like, everything's very unfine. Things are extremely unfine.
Things could not be less fine.
Yeah. As she takes the Emperor, and we see her put a stone in her clothing, which probably means there's more. And they jump.
Yep.
And she takes the little one with her.
Yeah, and we do get a brief shot of the little boy submerged and drowning, and like, you know it's coming. You know it's coming when Grandma starts freaking out, when Tokiko starts, like, you know, really, like, you know, they're not going to treat the Emperor well once they put their own in place. You know what's going to happen to you, Tokiko, you're going to have to marry some Genji guy. And it's like, oh no, I know exactly where this is going.
Well, and it needs to be noted that, like, throughout this entire, like, final leg of the series, Tokiko has really one mission in her life, and that is to protect her son and nothing else. Like, she doesn't care about his position.
Yeah.
She doesn't care about the 3 sacred treasures, which is a sword, a mirror, and a Magitama, by the way, for those wondering. They don't show them, but I know what they are. And she's like, it's just about my boy. It's just about my little bean. Yeah. And then that sequence, because after that, all the other court women start jumping off, and everyone's just like, whoa!
There is an incredible mass suicide of just people jumping off the boats and drowning, and
the only one who makes it is Tokiko, who gets pulled up by her hair.
Yeah, because she jumps. She also jumps.
And it's just like, that scene was so much worse the second time. I don't know how, like, crying you were at this point, but I was full on, like, trying not to full on cry.
I was definitely welling up. I was horrified. I mean, like, in a way that it's like, this is a good and effective piece of medium. That it's like, oh my god.
Well,
oh my god.
We've talked about Aoi Yuki, who plays Biwa, but we need to also give it up for Sayori Hayami, who plays Tokiko, because this scene, yes. She's been earning her flower this entire time. But oh lord, was she earning her flower in this scene.
The desperation in her voice.
Like, she's pleading with these men to let her die. And they won't let her. And it is incredibly depressing.
And it's like, and the worst thing possible that could have happened to her just happened to her. And she had to let it happen. And I just, yeah, it's anyway.
It is depressing. And then all the entire warriors start jumping off base. Like, Tomomori does something that's actually, like, there's a statue of this, by the way, of him tying himself with the anchor and throwing it and jumping in.
Yes.
It is an awesome statue, by the way. I've seen it. Because the statue is him, like, tossing the anchor in first. Like, what a way to go.
I mean, when Frank Reynolds in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia did say suicide is badass, that was what he was talking about. Is wrapping yourself with an anchor and throwing yourself into the ocean.
Oh yeah, and it is just like, it's like this whole sequence is crazy Because it's like you start realizing like everyone is just tossing themselves in, and you're like, whoa.
Everybody is dying.
Yeah, and it's not in the sense that it's uncomfortable. It's just it's tragic.
It is.
Because everyone is just accepted that they have lost. And now they are done.
And yeah, it's the way it kind of plays out is incredible to watch. It is very tragic, as you said.
Well, and what really makes it effective is that there's this moment where it cuts back to Yoshitsune. He's like watching this, being like, he looks freaked out. Like everyone's just shocked that this happened.
Oh yeah.
And this is a guy who, not just that far back, was shown charging at them with a spear and a sword in both hands, using his teeth to control his horse.
He's a badass. He's seen some shit.
Yeah, and this shocked him, his Benkei, everybody. And the only reason why Tokiko even makes it out of this is because Biwa convinces her not to die.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, I'm not okay.
Yeah, it fucking gut wrenching.
And it's just, God, it is a rough moment, and that's not even the part that probably sent us into full on tears.
Nope.
That would be what happens afterwards, because we have that's not where the show ends. We end like days, months, don't know how much farther later. It's never really established.
I'd say months. It seems like there's been some time to let things sit.
Yeah, and it's a scene where Go Shirakawa visits a small temple, and there's Tokiko. And he visits her. He just runs into her by accident, and he asks her probably the most gut-wrenching question we've had since Do You Forgive?
Mm-hmm.
And that is, how does one combat suffering? Because she talks about all the crap she went through, losing all of her family members, and he asks her, and she goes, I pray. And it's this moment of realization that, like, yes, my family's gone, but they'll live on.
Yeah.
There's someone going to tell their story. I learned that from her. And as we've learned, by the way, at the end of the battle, Biwa has gone blind.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess you use your powers too much, it causes you to go blind. Like her mom.
Yeah.
And then we end, I believe, with what opens up the actual Heike Monogatari, which is the phrase, the Buddha's temple bell tolls the message that all existence is impermanent and that all who flourish must fall. I think that's the point where we just finally lost it.
I was on the verge for a little bit before that, but I started crying in earnest after that.
Oh, yeah, and it needs to be stated that scene is gut-wrenching.
And it's beautiful. It is. I think it's legitimately one of the most beautiful endings to an anime I've ever seen.
And the reason why it is, for those wondering, it's because it is both tragic, but in a weird way, comforting.
Yeah.
And this is where I think we get into our second half of talking about this ending and this show is when you remember that this is the first show since the director, Naoko Yamada, had also gone through great personal tragedy.
Yeah.
Makes you kind of realize that she meant this.
She really did. This came from the heart.
And it should be noted, she directed this final episode. She really meant it.
And Naoko Yamada, what a fucking incredible talent just for this. Just for this.
If this was one person's only directorial episode of anything, I would wonder why they didn't get more work. Because, to me, if one asked me what this show is about, like, what it really is about, not what the story is, not what the plot is, what this show is trying to be about, this is where the show tells you that through everything, all the death, the suffering, the pain, all things are impermanent.
Yes.
One must pray. And I will say it hurts so much more the second time to go through it.
I can imagine so.
Which leads to the ultimate question. Tell me, Sardo.
Yeah?
How was it? What was your thoughts on Heike Story as a whole?
Absolutely fucking breathtaking.
Yeah, it's
beautiful, and I think the tragedies, like the tragedy's there, but it's only a small part of it. I think there is such a sense of peace and beauty that comes because of it.
Yeah, like the way I felt about it now on a second go through is sort of this feeling of I've watched a lot of shows. You've watched a lot of shows. We have watched utter trash, hype action, fun slice of life stuff, but this was one of those rare times where you watch a show where you're just like, I watched something that was art. And I think the best way I've heard it put was from a friend of mine who said it recently when he said, you might not understand what is going on, but you will feel the emotion.
Yeah.
It nails the emotion.
Like, you don't have to understand everything because, like, it speaks to you in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And Stross, I want to thank you for asking that we watch this, because holy shit, man.
Yeah, I feel like this closing part, for however long it's going to be, is really about sort of the feeling of this show as a whole, sort of like the post thoughts section. Because, there all these episodes, all 11 of them, it really is all about how you end it. And
right.
Sort of the ending is simply the idea of how does one combat suffering? And we learned at least one idea of how to do it.
And I think it's a nice, a nice way of looking at, well, how do you fight grief? Because, to live is to grieve. You're going to deal with loss eventually. And it's this way of, people, you lose people, but they live on through the stories that you tell of them, and through memory of them.
Through prayer. Because one of the last few shots of the Heike is all of them underwater at a dragon palace underneath the sea. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, it's gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it would have been so much easier to do this show from the perspective of the Genji, of the winners.
Yeah.
Where, of like, the guys who beat the wicked Heike, but instead we get 11 episodes of just pure emotion. And it's better off for it.
And there's so many moments throughout the series where, you look at the characters in a moment, and we've talked about this before, of just them living their lives and just being people.
Which
They're
makes
not
which makes this so much more tragic.
yeah, it's like they're not being warriors, they're not, they're not fighting, they're just living.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to put it is what makes this show work and what makes it so good is that there's a real sense of these characters were people. They had
Mhm.
lives, they had wants, they had ambitions, and yet in the end, it all came crashing down.
Yeah.
And it's rough. This is not the easiest sit in terms of having a nice day.
It's a very sad watch, but there's a point to the sadness.
Well, yeah, I think that's what keeps it from being misery porn.
Hmm.
Is that there's a point where you realize like there's a point to all of this. There is an idea here about how we're feeling. And it's tough. It's a bit of a tough sit, but I think Sardo, who was your favorite character in the end?
Oh, that's a tough call. I liked so many people.
Well, let's say their names. Let's go through some of them.
Tokuko. I mean, obviously,
Mm.
we've been singing her praises, and she deserves them because what a character. I think she's so interesting to me because like there is this character growth, and like you understand the grief she goes through, and her whole monologue at the end. It's like it's not just that she is a strong person, but it's like there's some real wisdom there, I think. And I love her. I really love her. I'm glad she lived.
Yeah, well, I have some good news.
Um,
She actually did live in real life.
yeah,
We should mention Sukamori actually does live. We see that he we never see him jump in, but we do see at the very end when they're doing the whole final bit, like, oh, there he is. He made it.
yeah,
And remember when I said that now Zane was going to come back? He was probably the
yeah.
monk. Poor man. It's like he felt such guilt.
Aww.
Well, don't worry, everyone. He had to go through his guilt in the play Atsumori, a personal favorite of everyone's favorite Oda Nobunaga. Wild shit there.
Yes, yes, indeed. Who was one of your favorites? Who did you
Oh,
enjoy?
I'm not picking Tokuko again because that would be cheating. It's not cheating, but I feel like it's. We mentioned Go Shirakawa. We should give it up for Biwa as well as sort of being our point of view character for most of this.
Great, great protagonist.
Yeah.
We love Biwa.
Well, because like we see much like how all the other characters kind of grow older towards the end of the series that she herself has grown older even though she hasn't physically really grown for
Yeah.
some reason. Not sure why that was a decision made, not that I'm complaining, it's just
I think that there's kind of this otherworldly element to Biwa as a character.
yeah,
Like she's very human in her emotions, but there's something.
well, I feel like the reason why they kept her just kind of weird and short and childlike is to kind of be sort of that weird, it's almost ethereal, fey-like creature.
Yeah, I could see that.
I guess. I don't know what why they made that decision, but they did.
And it worked.
It worked. And you know, the acting through by basically everyone is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, really need to give it up to the Japanese cast. I've not seen this in English, so I can't speak on the English cast. I know some of the actors in it; they're good. Just like looking at the cast list, there's like some very well known English dub actors who I know who are quite talented, so it's probably equally talented. But it's just like it's one of those rare times where a whole show comes together where the sum of its parts equals how good it actually is. You
It's
know?
so solid.
Yeah. Like there's not a weak point other than maybe like I would say the weakest episodes were the first two we watched tonight, but they serve a purpose.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, Sardo, secondary question.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend this to your friends?
Yes.
I'm glad that we're in that same boat. It's like, yes, I would.
I have already recommended this to several of my friends who watch anime. I have told them it's like, listen, this is only 11 episodes. You have no reason not to see it.
Yeah, like that's the other thing. It's 11 episodes. It's really good. And if you are listening for some reason to this podcast, first off, thank you.
Thank you.
We love you. But more importantly, I want to say that like if you want to watch a show that's different, watch this one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like stuff that I could compare this to that I've also seen, and nothing is coming up.
There's not a lot that's similar to it. It's one of those things where it's like I'm trying to think of like a drama anime that made me this emotional while watching it, and I'm drawing a blank because there's not a lot of shows really about this subject matter of what does one do with suffering.
It it hits so different, and it's so meditative, I guess is the word.
Well, it's rather
There
Buddhist.
really is. Yeah, there's a lot there to chew on.
There's a lot to chew on, and it's just it's shocking how good it is. Like I remember when this was first shown, I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. I'm the type of person this is for, and by the end of it, I'm like, I hate the fact that not a lot of people are going to see it.
Yeah, this anime absolutely ragdolled me psychologically.
Mm-hmm. Like
It
go
it
on.
broke 3 of my ribs.
It came in, broke your ribs, and you said thank you.
Thank you so much.
It is. I feel like this downside is it's kind of hard to penetrate if you try to
Mhm.
follow it in the sense of what's happening.
Right.
But I feel like that would be missing the point in a certain degree.
And I mean, if like the whole like maybe jumping around, not like the most, clear beat to beat storytelling, like if that's gonna take you out of something, maybe this isn't for you. But to that I'd say suck it up.
Suck it up.
This is so good.
The emotional through line is so worth it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, Sardo, but I'm not one who cries too often at things. I get misty eyed, but I don't consider that the same as crying.
No, it's not the same thing. I am not a big crier either.
And I like, when I got up to go to the bathroom before we started recording, I looked in the mirror, I'm like, oh god, I really was crying. My eyes.
After the last episode, I,
oh.
I'm like, how you doing, Stross? And I heard your voice, and it's like, holy shit, he's crying.
Yeah, and I don't think you've ever heard me at like any point beyond like emotional at a thing. Because you've been with me on stream when stuff gets emotional, and we're both, and even if it's a little performative, this was not performative. This is like the hardest I cried at a thing since I watched Coco on a plane.
This is the first time I've ever heard you cry.
I'm pretty sure it is.
It was a little shocking, honestly, because you are, again, not somebody who, that does that very often.
And I want to make it really clear, this is not because we're big, tough men who are tough. No, I just
Well, I
don't.
mean, we are big tough men who are tough, but we also cry sometimes.
I
But
mean,
that's
I don't
okay.
think I have the right to call myself big. I'm pretty sure my 5'6" ass is not allowed to do that.
We're tough men who cry
There
sometimes.
we go. That I'm allowed. I'll allow that one. But yeah, no, it's like, when was the last time you cried at a show? Yeah, hell, at a show, let alone like at a. First off, when was the last time you cried at anything? And when's the last time it was like a TV series?
Oh, fuck.
I know this was a
But
net series, but we're counting it. Shut up.
yeah, it still counts. Probably episode 3 of The Walking Dead.
God, when was that? That was a
That
long.
wasn't not too long ago. It was, to be fair, it was very good.
That was like the game, right?
Well, this was the TV
Oh,
adaptation of the game.
oh,
The
God.
the show is very good. I
Oh,
would really recommend it.
oh yeah. No, it's not that. It was just like I was trying to remember. Like, when did that come out? That was a while ago, probably.
It's been a bit. It doesn't happen very often. Mostly I cry about animal stuff, but
Well, I mean that's fair. And usually because it's so cute, you just have to start crying.
also, again, I know we mentioned this before, but shout out to the writers for making sure the cat in this was safe. Thank you for making sure that Neko was, like, also explained, and we knew
Yeah, we knew
that he
Neko
was in a
was
safe
safe.
place.
It didn't help us in any other way. You hurt
I
us
mean,
so much more than we thought you were going to. You came in there like with a fast one. You're like, ha!
it's like, oh, by the way, but the cat's all right. I'm
We're like,
good.
Thank you. Yeah, no,
Like,
it was interesting because I cried more the second time actually.
huh. And why was that? I mean, how
I'm gonna guess two things. Number one, I've had like a year plus of thinking about it and like mulling over the ending in terms of like what it means, like what it is philosophically, you know, the point, attaching my own memories to things, a little bit of vodka. I
oh
was
yeah.
that definitely helped, but I think I would have cried either way. Because
Yeah.
I think it's like when the knowledge of, because I've watched the ending multiple times. I want to make that abundantly clear, but it's like in full context, it hits way harder. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
because like the video is up on YouTube, and also the music, by the way, in that final sequence is the best track in the entire series. We didn't even mention that part. The music's been great this
Oh.
entire time.
The music, everything is just a fucking scrumptious layer cake of, like, good quality everything.
Yeah, but what makes that part so good and like that ending hit so hard is like, I don't know about you, but I've lost family members. I have gone,
Yes.
and it's like, what does one do with suffering?
Mm-hmm.
And it hits. It hits right there because the moment I learned that this was the first thing, because, well, when I was reminded, because I didn't know going into it, but months, like a year later, when I learned, like, hey, you do know that this is the first thing she made since the KO Annie fire, and realized, like, how deeply sincere this all truly was, it opens up your heart a bit more.
It really does.
Because you realize this is someone sort of letting out that pent up sadness of losing
Mm-hmm.
friends, losing things, watching, part of your life literally go up in smoke.
Yeah.
And it hits so hard that once you know that, it makes you realize how much it meant to make this. To say it.
and it was said so beautifully and with so much heart. And holy shit.
Yeah, it's hard to really explain how, like, it's incredible to think, like, you loved Shigemori and his death came and you were sad, and I want to ask you, did you think it was going to get, I mean, I told you it was going to get worse,
Knew it was going to get worse.
but did you think it was going to be this?
Um, I, you know, I don't know what I was expecting, but I don't think it was this. I
Yeah,
don't think I could have anticipated
I don't think
this.
anyone can. And, like, it's funny because I went into this knowing full well what happens to everyone involved, including the characters we don't really follow.
Hmm.
Like, I could tell you how Shizuka and Yoshitsune have, like, a lovely love affair, but it ends tragically as well.
Right.
Do you know how that ends?
Vaguely familiar with it.
Well, I'll tell you anyways.
Go ahead.
Uh, Yoritomo, in an act of consolidating power, kills both of his younger brothers. This leads...
Oh.
So, and Shizuka famously is sent away, much like Biwa was, and was,
Hmm.
guess what child she was carrying?
Oh no.
Don't worry, she lived or something. The child didn't.
Hmm.
And
Oh.
it is, I believe, legend. I don't know how accurate this is. I don't want to state that I know that according to stories, she either became a nun or
Hmm.
she didn't. But that she was kidnapped, like nabbed, and was forced to dance in front of Yoritomo, and everyone's just like, she danced so beautifully and so filled with passion and sadness that everyone is just like, damn, we're really about to fuck this woman's life up.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I knew a little bit of that, but I didn't know the full thing.
Yeah, and
So,
Yoshitsune dies. He commits seppuku, of course.
mm.
And though Benkei gets the like cool death where he gets hit with a bunch of arrows and everyone thought he was still alive. I was like, don't get near him, he'll kill you. Oh wait, he's dead.
That is a corpse.
Yeah. Oh, he's just still standing. He died standing, which is,
That's pretty
neat.
badass.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. But yeah, so they have people dress up with her for festivals, which is, I think, neat.
It is interesting.
So yeah, it's like, really, I think the best way to describe this series. So okay, before I go into my final closing thoughts on it, Sardo, what are your closing thoughts on Heike Story, of the longest the hell you're watching until we eventually do Legend of the Galactic Heroes?
Um, my thought is you should watch this if you haven't. Watch Heike Story. It's really fucking good. Um, Also, I kind of want to make like one of those stupid little fan cam things for Go Shirakawa. Um,
Do it. Please do it. I want you
I
to
want
send it to your friends and then be like, man, what the fuck you doing?
I don't know. I feel like he inspires that kind of energy, and I like him. He's fun. Good show, beautiful show. Um, a really interesting viewpoint on grief and what we do with it. And watch the damn show. It's so good.
Yeah, it's one of those really sad aspects like, it's understandable why this show wasn't super popular. It's about stuff that people don't know about. It wasn't really this big thing. And it was coming
Hmm.
out along shows that were much more accessible to the average
Right.
person. And I want to make that really clear. I understand that, but trust me, even if you don't like anime, even if you don't give a shit about animation, go watch this. We're
Do
serious.
yourself a favor.
You owe yourself to watch something that is actually... I don't want to say actually good because like the other show that came out at this point was Ranking of Kings, and that was also really good.
But this is good in a different way.
Yes, it also made me an emotional wreck, just not in the same way. This one hurt me,
Yeah.
and it hurt so good. I guess my closing thoughts are the sense of this is a wonderful series. It's incredibly well made, beautifully directed, beautifully animated, great music. But really, in the end, it is that emotional through line from start to finish that really just it hits you.
It does.
Very hard. And it's very rare because, like, the last time I was this level of gross crying at a thing, I watched Coco, and that was designed for me.
Right.
This was also meant for me, but in a different way. My little Mexican heart couldn't take that movie.
It was a good movie.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Because, like, that's probably the last thing I straight up cried at that I can think of. And that one was, like, I wasn't even in the theater. I was on a plane. So people could see that. I want to know that that was in public. That was in a public place with the lights on.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it's a powerful statement.
I guess my final thought is Heike Monogatari punched me in the dick, and I'm glad that it did.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I understand why it wasn't bigger. Like that I think that's the annoying part.
Yeah.
Is that you know why it didn't get big, but you do yourself a favor. Go watch it. Tell everyone how great it is if you liked it. If you didn't like it, that's fine. I'm gonna question your tastes though.
I'm about to be so annoying to my immediate IRL friend group because the ones who I haven't already told them you should watch this. They're gonna be hearing a lot about this.
No, now it's like you should watch it to be you grabbing them by the lapel, be like, watch it,
watch it.
You owe yourself the beauty and the magic. And trust me, it's worth it. Like I really there's a reason why I wanted to talk about this and I wanted us to watch it, and once you see it you're like, "Oh." Well, after you calm down from crying at that last episode because we both needed a second.
I definitely needed a second.
I blew my nose. I don't do that very often, everybody. That is a statement.
My face is still very splotchy.
Oh god, my eyes hurt. Like the salt from my tears.
Yeah.
Are burning the sensitive areas around my eyes.
Like yeah, you cry so much like your skin hurts a little.
Mm-hmm. Kind of crusty.
It's that.
Like I mean it, man.
I'm crying like a One Piece character.
Actually, fun fact: Tokuko's voice actress is in One Piece.
Oh.
You want to guess who she is?
Robin.
No, she's more recent, very much more recent character than that.
Who is she?
Well, it's a very similar sounding name. She's Yamamoto.
Oh.
The big lad himself.
Love that boy.
Love that boy.
It's a big boy.
She's also other things that you actually know who she is. She's Yor in Spy Family.
Yay!
And this one's for you and me because you experienced this with me. She's also very comically a certain Clarissa Snowflake. So you've heard her sing. It's really funny. That one's really funny.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, but God, like this is one of those shows that it's a rare one. It's a rare one, and you all deserve to go see it. Please watch it. You'll thank yourself later,
It's a gem.
or not. Maybe you're gonna have a bad time.
It's good stuff.
It might hurt
It's
you.
the good
But we'll be nice and say it will hurt.
Oh yeah. And I think that's about it.
Yeah. I think
that's all
that's an episode. I did extend this out to make sure it's the longest one to at least justify all 5 episodes. But
Well,
yeah. Before we close out, done anything recently that's fun, Sardo, that you want to mention?
well, I have been streaming.
Yeah, and you recently debuted something.
I did. Thank you for reminding me. I recently made my debut as a PNG tuber. So the Skeleton Gang is now got a visual element too. I'm a PNG tuber now, folks. Thanks to Stross
Yay.
for helping me kind of get the hang of it and understand what the heck I'm supposed to be doing. A huge help.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I stream every Wednesday, 6:30 Mountain Standard Time, and now your friendly local skeleton bro has a face to the voice.
Yay.
So yeah, I think that's it for me. What about you, Stross?
I'm still streaming as per usual. There's
Hell
that.
yeah.
We not much. Let's see. Not really watching anything that I haven't mentioned before. Actually, let's do a fun thing, Sardo. What do you think we're gonna watch next for this giant "we're watching stuff together" thing? What do you want it to be?
Oh, that is a great question. Let me
I'm
check out
gonna
the
jokingly say Legend of the Galactic Heroes as a joke, knowing full well that we're gonna have to like actually carve out like a month for that to watch all of
It's
it.
gonna take a while.
It's 110 episodes. You damn right it's gonna take a while.
um I really this is gonna sound a little insane. Um I really want us to watch some Don Bluth movies.
Oh, we can definitely do that at some point.
I think we should. That's something that is up on the table for discussion,
Oh,
and I
absolutely.
want to watch some goddamn Don Bluth movies again.
I'll be down for that. Also, we're probably the actual next one is probably gonna be Edge Runners, because I know you still want to
Yes.
watch that. But yeah,
Definitely so.
also great. We're ready to emotionally destroy ourselves for a second time. All
Oh
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love punching myself in the face.
I love it when I emotionally destroy my body and soul. Because
Today is Saturday, which means the Skeleton Gang gets to watch something that makes them really sad.
God, no, I want to make it really clear, we were actually crying. This is not us like playing it up for the as a
No,
bit. This was that was legit. I was crying.
I was also crying.
I was the type of gross crying where you try to hold back the tears because you're trying to watch the thing. And the tears make it hard to watch, and then it just kind of gets a bit more gross, but less in your eyes.
Yeah.
Like my sleeves, I was dabbing my face off with my sleeves. And my eyes hurt. I don't like it when my eyes hurt.
I went pretty gross for a minute. I did wipe my face with my hoodie at one point.
Oh,
So
I'm wearing a hoodie too, so my hoodie's it's going to need to be washed again.
yeah, same here.
But
Yeah, we got
yeah.
sorry.
No, you go.
We got some interesting stuff on the docket.
Yeah, absolutely. We promised next time will be a much happier episode, probably. I don't know.
Probably. Maybe.
We'll find out. We
Yeah,
don't know.
we'll see.
We kind of decided that we're flying by the seat of our pants here, everybody. But yeah, number one, you can follow Sardo at Autopsy Garlands.
Yes. I'm on the Twitter.
Yeah, on the Twitter. And you can also go to Uncle Death on Twitch.com. That's Uncle spelled with a K for
Yes.
Wednesday nights art streamings.
Yeah.
Those are fun. They're fun. I've been to pretty much all of them. Not always on them, but I've been to them. They're fun.
And it's been a good time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you can follow Stross all across the board, Twitter and Twitch at Almighty Stross.
On Twitter's .coms.
But you should follow Stross. Follow Stross on Twitch. Stross
Twitch is a
stream.
I'm gonna be real here. Twitch is where I actually put more effort in because Twitter has been mostly just being complaining about the playoffs.
Twitch is your home.
Yeah, it's my home has currently been on fire. Great, it's been great. Thanks, Dubs. And then I followed it up by doing this, which was much more fun and also way more painful.
Yes.
But anyway, folks, you can also listen to us now on Spotify,
RSS.
on the RSS feed, at like the Skeleton Crew podcast. That's all one thing. Obviously, YouTube still podcast index. I don't know what that is, but we're on it.
We are, and that's something.
And listen notes. Also don't know what that is. I'm probably gonna put us up on Amazon Music tonight and Samsung Podcasts.
Hell yeah.
I'll try to get us on Google Podcasts. It hasn't been working out too well.
Well, thank you for your efforts, my friend.
It won't recognize the email that I put into it, despite the fact that you can't have an account without an email. I don't know how this works, Google.
Google.
I'm real. Let me
You're
in.
a real boy.
I'm just a normal man.
Just an innocent man.
But thank you, folks. We will be back at it again next week with, I don't know.
A surprise.
Yeah, it's going to be a surprise to everyone, including ourselves, as we haven't decided yet. Which is...
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out, but I want you to understand this is a ramshackle production, and that's how we're going to probably keep it for the rest of our days until the podcast ends. Or we make enough money on it that it isn't a ramshackle production. I'm not saying we're going to make money, but if Heike Story can make us money, then we're going to have to really start pushing for it.
Yes.
Thank you, folks. Thank you very much for listening to this. This was... honestly, a very wonderful experience for us, even if it absolutely physically is hurting my eyes.
It was painful, but it was a good painful.
Painful in the sense that it's all the tears.
And we appreciate y'all for being along for the ride.
It was wonderful, and thank you all for being here. And remember, folks, watch Heike Story.
Watch Heike Story.
Goodbye.
Good night, everybody.